Good evening, Cerrito residents and the member of our community. I'd like to call to order the Monday, October 7, 2024, 7 p.m. City Council Success Agency special meeting. We'll have invocation will be led by Pastor Juno Smalley from New Life Community Church, and the pledge will be led by ASO Region 54, Baja Blast Team. Pastor Smalley, may you all rise.
Lord God, thank you that you are here with us. We are grateful that you are not just in one particular building on a Sunday or Saturday, but that you're with us in our homes, in our schools, in the playgrounds, and here in this meeting. And so I just pray that we'll have grateful hearts. I pray that we will pause and think through what matters most in life and take those moments and to be grateful. I'm grateful that I am not one of the leaders here, having to make all these decisions, having to process all the pros and cons, and having to try to do that in a way that's respectful of each other. And so I just pray that you'll help us to be respectful. I pray that you'll help us to ask questions that bring clarity, that bring respect, and that bring understanding. I pray in this next month, as we vote in our new president, that we will remember it's in our diversity that we are strong. I hope we remember that we can disagree and still serve in the same community to make Cerritos a great home for everybody who lives here. So help us to think before we speak, help us to seek to understand, and help us to make Cerritos a great place to live. And we give you thanks. Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance group.
We will begin the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you. Would you like to say, one minute, would you like to say your name and what grade you're in?
My name is Emma Yu, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name's Osley, and I'm in 3rd grade.
My name is Samantha, and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Alexis, I'm in 6th grade.
My name's Alasia Hamilton, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name's Elise, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name is Priscilla, and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Brianna Michelle, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name's Sophia, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name is Michaela, and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Sarah Perini, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name is Nayeli Camarina, and I'm in 7th grade.
And my name is Rashana Ali. I'm Coach Shauna. This is my 15th year of being an AYSO coach, and I'm proud to coach these wonderful ladies, Baja Blast U14 girls. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please conduct the roll call?
Council and Agency Member Barrows.
Present.
Council and Agency Member Johnson.
Present.
Council and Agency Member Yokoyama.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem and Vice Chair Vo.
Present.
Mayor and Chair Solanki.
Present. Thank you. Next item we have is the presentation, Filipino American Heritage Month. The city of Cerritos is proud to join community across the country in observing Filipino American History Month. Beginning in 1992, the month of October has been dedicated to celebrate the rich heritage of Filipinos in the United States and to the recognize of the important culture and historical contribution that Filipino American has made in our country. And in the community as we call home, Cerritos is a grateful and thankful for the contribution of Filipino American who have helped to make the city community rich culturally diversity. The first group, so do we have a proclamation for Filipino groups, or is this same group? Okay. Okay, so the first group is Mabuhay Players. This evening we are fortunate to have two groups with us representing our Filipino American community. The first group that I would like to call to the presentation area are the Mabuhay Players under the guidance of Cerritos residents Erwin Tucson and his wife, Lowell. The Mulberry Players are the youth theater group based here in Cerritos that is dedicated to mentoring children to be better communicators and leaders throughout the art of storytelling and developing the love of performing arts in the young people to our community. So at this time I'd like to invite Mulberry's in presentation area. Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Sure. Yeah. We just want to thank the Cerritos City Council and the City of Cerritos and the families of the Mabuhay Players students that have come out to support. Without them, we could not have this community of thriving artists. And like Mayor said, we believe that art can create better leaders, better communicators, and better team players as well.
We believe that our youth have a voice, and that we hope that when we open our doors, that youth feels comfortable to share their voice with all of us.
And at this time, we'd like to invite the students to come up and take a photo with us as well.
Thank you. I can also call my council colleagues can come. This one, maybe in the front somewhere, or is too heavy, might be for them.
Clay and Phoenix, can you hold this together?
The edges are sharp.
Edges are
Be
sharp.
careful, edges are.
Okay, go in front.
There you go, yeah.
Don't cover her face though.
Make sure her face is there, you go. Yes. I see what you see.
All right, everybody, right over here.
Everybody has four.
On three, we'll take the photo. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and one more for me. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Come on, students.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. Good job.
You're all on TV.
Good job.
You're all on TV. You can see it later too.
Good job. I like your barometer. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Okay, our second group is tonight is the club, what is that, Magakisa, a student group at Cerritos High School that is led by club president Catherine Estrella and advisor Mizarimo Oliva. Club Mangasca is a group that provides opportunity for members to learn about the customs and culture of the Philippines and provide a welcome sense of place and belonging for the student who are interested in Filipino culture. So I'd like to invite first Catherine Estrella and advisor Mary Oliva. Wait. I'll call you. Oh, the other group, I forgot. I gotta follow them. Oh. Okay, we are going to present you a proclamation. Would you like to say something before?
Hi, my name is Catherine Estrella, and I am the president of Cerritos High School's Club Makesa. First of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for giving us this opportunity and allowing us to represent our community. And I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful and thankful to represent such a beautiful club on Cerritos' campus and be able to share my culture and be proud of my culture and share our cultural, like our heritage and our values among other students and share among our community by being able to come out here tonight and do other things for Cerritos. Thank you.
Everything she says, I'm empowering her.
All right. Would you like to invite all your student colleagues? I'd like to invite my council colleagues too. Okay, come down, Audrey. Come on. I think we can just, we can go a little bit forward.
Step down and walk around.
Ashley,
Line up in the back. And
Just keep on going down and walk around.
I'll let you hold this just like the, in the front. So
Yeah, you need to do this one.
Got some people in the back I cannot see. Come to the front.
Madame has Madame come in.
Oh, and get back.
No, here, you go.
Don't come in
There
the
you go. There you go. Everybody's in the shot.
Everybody's there, you can see everybody?
Let's do Catherine. You stand here.
Yes, come on.
Trisha, you're getting blocked right there.
One more young lady can come with you. Would you like to join some here?
And the kid can stand down.
No, go inside. There you go. Wonderful. Very good. Yes.
Have you move a little? You two right here. Perfect. All right, everybody, right over here on three. I'll take the photo. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and one more for me. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Where'd you get these? These are nice. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Just tell her you're from Philippines.
Coming out. Good job. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll praise
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next we have is the public comments and suggestion. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. State law and our local rules do not support use of profanity, hateful speech, or conduct that disturbs the conduct of this city business meeting. If necessary, I will issue an initial warning and call for recess to restore the order. After that, chamber may be cleared if disturbance continue. Next, I will call upon City Clerk to provide additional information concerning public comments.
Thank you, Mayor. The following comments pertain to all public comment periods on tonight's agenda. Prior to the meeting, the council agency received full text, unredacted copies of the one written comment submitted for this meeting by the deadline listed on the agenda. Requests for copies of written comments can be made to the Office of the City Clerk during regular business hours. The mayor will open in-person public comments at the appropriate times on the agenda. Please be prepared to approach the podium and begin your comments at the time you are called. Public comments should be directed to the City Council and made only from the podium during your turn. Please respect each speaker and refrain from any disruptive behavior or speech during their comment time. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Agenda item 6 public comments should be limited to items on the consent calendar, closed session, and items not listed on the agenda but that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. This concludes the public comment information, and the meeting is now returned to the mayor to open public comments under item 6.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak on the public comments? Seeing none, I'll close the public comments and we'll go to consent calendar. Do you have a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, your motion in a second.
And a motion was made by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Vo. I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is the new and old business, item 9A. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This first item 9A follows up on previous discussion by the City Council as it relates to the upcoming City of Cerritos general election. The presentation this evening will be given by Acting City Clerk Cindy Nava. And prior to that, I will turn the floor to Mr. Urke, who would like to make an announcement. Mr. Urke.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lopez, and Mayor and members of the City Council. In connection with this item, please be reminded that Councilmember Johnson is an employee of the County of Los Angeles and works for an office of one of the Board of Supervisors, which means that she does receive a salary that is deemed income in connection with that employment. As the Council may recall, our office coordinated with Councilmember Johnson to obtain from the California Fair Political Practices Commission a determination on whether Councilmember Johnson had a potential conflict of interest when she was employed with the Sheriff's Department, a department within Los Angeles County. That FPPC advice letter is still relevant in that one of the items for consideration by the Council as part of this agenda item is a resolution requesting the county to render specific services through the Los Angeles County registrar/recorder/county clerk's office. I'll just call them the registrar's department. Councilmember Johnson does not work in the registrar's department. Therefore, drawing from the analysis of this FPPC advice letter, Councilmember Johnson has a non-interest and may participate in the consideration of the resolution requesting county registrar services for the upcoming Cerritos general municipal election. Specifically, under the Political Reform Act, income expressly does not include the salary or reimbursement for expenses or per diem or any other similar benefits received from a state, local, or federal government agency. Because the county supervisor's office is a local government agency, Councilmember Johnson's salary is not considered, quote, income and does not require a conflict of interest analysis under the Political Reform Act. Similarly, under Government Code Section 1090, which generally prohibits public officers acting in their official capacities from making contracts in which they have a financial interest, Councilmember Johnson has what is legally described as, again, quote, non-interest. Government Code Section 1091.5, Subdivision A9 provides in pertinent part that an officer shall not be deemed to be interested in a contract if his or her interest is that of a person receiving a salary from a government entity unless the contract directly involves a department of the government entity that employs the officer, in which case that would be a remote interest, as was the case when Councilmember Johnson worked in the in the Sheriff's Department. Given that she has a non-interest and provided that the interest is disclosed as is right now at the time the board considers this issue, and given past practice that was confirmed by the acting city clerk, that all contracts that we have with the county are only with the registrar's office, Councilmember Johnson may participate in all the actions. And thank you for allowing me to provide this update, and it will be noted for the record.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Mr. Urke. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is the appropriate time to commence the formal actions required to initiate the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election pursuant to the provisions of state law and the City Charter. The item before you this evening is also a review and consideration of the adoption of resolutions and associated actions required to place 2 potential charter amendment measures on the March 2025 election ballot. Sorry, can you go back one slide? Thank you. If you direct your attention to the screen, a summary of the actions to be considered this evening is listed. For ease of discussion and decision-making purposes, with City Council concurrence, I will bifurcate this report, dividing the action items as follows. During the first section of this report, I will provide general election information and note actions required to officially call the election. I will then turn it over to the council to discuss, ask questions, open public comment, and recommend the adoption of the 3 associated resolutions only, which are to call the election, establish regulations for submission of candidate statements, and request county services. After the vote on this item, I will report on and the council may discuss, hear public comment, and vote on the first of the 2 potential charter amendment ballot measures. This would be repeated for the second potential ballot measure. If one or both measures are placed on the ballot, the council may at that time select a measure letter or letters to identify the approved ballot measure or measures. Additionally, I will briefly report on the adoption of resolutions required to authorize primary arguments and direct the city attorney to prepare the impartial analysis or analyses and to determine whether rebuttals to the primary arguments for and against each measure will be authorized. After all discussion and decision-making procedures are conducted on these items, I will conclude with a brief summary of information related to approval of expenditures, associated contracts, and authorization to conduct the March 2025 election. With that, I ask the council for concurrence to conduct the report in this manner. Otherwise, I'm happy to consolidate the report, and the council may discuss, open public comments, and vote on these items after the complete report. Thank you.
I do. I agree with the city clerk to take it up separately.
That's fine.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I will now begin the initial part of this report. As mentioned, this section of the report is related to the official call of the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 general municipal election. City staff has commenced the planning activities required to conduct the March 2025 election as a standalone proceeding. I will note this section is the largest, as I will also provide some detail related to general election information and procedures. There are 3 resolutions before the City Council tonight that are required to commence the city's official election activities. The first resolution notices, calls, and sets the procedures for the election, which will be held for the purpose of electing 3 members of the City Council for full 4-year terms. The adoption of this resolution triggers the requirement to post and publish the notice of election and establish the official candidate nomination period. The official candidate nomination period opens Tuesday, November 12, 2024 at 8 a.m. and closes Friday, December 6, 2024 at 5 p.m. sharp. This is a hard deadline and our office doors will close exactly at 5 p.m. We are unable to receive any nomination materials past this 5 p.m. deadline. All official candidate nomination materials must be issued by and filed with the Office of the Cerritos City Clerk Elections Official during regular business hours as posted. The final deadline for eligible incumbents is Friday, December 6th at 5 p.m. sharp. If an eligible incumbent city council member does not file the required nomination paperwork by the Friday, December 6, 2024, 5 p.m. deadline, the official candidate nomination period is extended to Wednesday, December 11, 2024 at 5 p.m. sharp for eligible individuals other than eligible incumbents. The second resolution sets regulations for the 200-word statements of qualifications submitted by candidates to be printed in official election materials. These also regulate the allowable content and length of the statement, deadlines for submission and withdrawal, the foreign language translation policy establishing compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act, or the VRA, and the payment requirements for candidates who choose to submit a statement of qualifications. The third resolution requests the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors to authorize access to official voter registration information maintained by the Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder, County Clerk. This information is used to verify and authenticate eligibility of potential candidates and voter signatures on official nomination paperwork and ballot materials. Other specified services include the use of vote-by-mail drop boxes and/or election materials and supplies. This request is made during each election as the county is the local registrar of voters designated by the California Secretary of State. Updates to the city's election administration plan are underway to ensure a legally compliant, operationally efficient, and transparent election. I will summarize a few of the updates tonight, and our office will provide regular status reports to the City Council and community through this election season. As required by state law, the city mailed postcard notifications to each Cerritos registered voter household regarding the adoption of Ordinance 1042 and the change of the city's general municipal election date to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March of odd-numbered years. We used this as an opportunity to concurrently assist the Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder County Clerk in updating their voter records to ensure the most accurate voter information is utilized for the upcoming election. Each postcard mailed to the Cerritos registered voter household included the names of the individuals currently registered to vote at that resident's address, along with the request to inform our office if there are any changes or inaccuracies in the record. We will conduct a similar database cleanup in December. All information compiled by our office will be transmitted to the county clerk, who serves as the official registrar of voters. Once the information is received, the county clerk will commence official voter registration confirmation actions as required by state law and update any records necessary. Traditionally, the city has exceeded the minimum requirements to comply with the VRA multi-language election requirements in order to promote maximum voter outreach and participation. Given the diversity of the Cerritos community and voter-initiated registration requests, the city will continue to translate, print, and publish the March 2025 official election materials in 7 languages: English, Spanish, Korean, Chinese, Hindi, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. Voter outreach activities, including the identification of multi-language media outlets, have commenced in order to encourage and communicate with voters as required by the VRA. Additionally, the city's website will feature official election information in all of these languages. Voter outreach will also be conducted through the city's monthly newsletter, social media accounts, and Cerritos TV3. As with the 2022 election, the March 2025 standalone election will feature a hybrid voting model that ensures Cerritos voters have in-person and vote-by-mail options to cast their ballots, while at the same time we have established very robust internal and external controls and audits to mitigate fraudulent voting. This model also ensures officially designated and trained staff are available at all established hours to assist voters and complete all tasks related to legally required voting, the semi-official canvass, and official canvass procedures. In-person voting will commence on February 3rd, 2025 in the Office of the City Clerk Elections Official and will include weekend voting on the weekend prior to Election Day. The table on the screen summarizes the proposed in-person voting dates and hours. Any eligible Cerritos voter who is registered not later than 15 days prior to the election or February 17, 2025, may elect to vote in person or by mail if they so choose. Pursuant to state law, all Cerritos registered voters will receive a vote-by-mail ballot. City staff will partner with the county clerk's office to utilize the established vote-by-mail, or VBM, drop-box locations in the Cerritos Civic Center Plaza and at Cerritos Park East. The VBM drop boxes will be temporarily branded with official City of Cerritos logos and information for the purposes of the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 election. Only designated Cerritos elections official staff will have key access to the designated VBM drop boxes. The VBM drop boxes will be open to accept ballot materials beginning Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and will be open 24 hours per day through Tuesday, March 4, 2025 at 8 p.m. On Election Day, the VBM drop boxes will be closed at 8 p.m. per state law. All voting materials received from voters participating in the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election will be authenticated through legally required signature comparison with the original affidavit of registration. Multiple signature authentication and fraudulent voting audits will be conducted prior to any opening and counting of official ballots. We will use updated ballot tracking software during this election. As previously offered in Cerritos standalone elections, candidates who have submitted the legally required application and payment to view voter information will receive daily updates on ballot packages issued and received in the Office of the City Clerk Elections Official. Planning activities have commenced for the processing and counting of eligible ballots on election night in the City Council chamber. Although 30 days after Election Day are allowed by state law to complete the official canvass and certify the election results, it is anticipated the hybrid voting model and robust in-house signature authentication process will result in earlier election results certification. The slide on the screen provides a brief summary of our anticipated upcoming election activities. Some of these dates are subject to change in order to remain in legal compliance with all semi-official and official canvass requirements. As stated, regular updates will be provided to the council and community at regular intervals throughout the election season. We will also update the city's website and all available city media outlets. This slide displays the anticipated expenditures associated with the March 2025 election. It should be noted, though the projected amount of this election currently exceeds the approved fiscal year 2024-25 budgeted amount of $350,000, actual costs will depend on factors such as the actual number of registered voters and qualified candidates. The projected cost is simply an estimation based on the information that is currently available. As shown on the screen, the addition of 2 ballot measures may increase expenses by approximately $20,000, primarily due to additional printed pages in the sample ballot book, translations, and legal noticing. Given the variables discussed, staff is not at this time requesting a budget amendment to increase the fiscal year 2024-25 election expense account. Additionally, it should be noted, any potential increase in election expenses has been offset by a decrease in staffing costs due to current vacancies in the Office of the City Clerk. During the mid-year budget review and throughout this election, city staff will examine actual and projected expenses and, if necessary, request council authorization of a budget amendment. This concludes my report on the official notice and call of the March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election, and at this time it is recommended the City Council review and consider the information provided, receive public comment on the notice and call of the election, and waive full reading of and adopt the 3 resolutions only that are required to call the election for officers, adopt candidate statement regulations, and request county services. As a gentle reminder, the other items to be decided upon tonight and that we will open public comments for will be presented following the conclusion of the adoption of these 3 resolutions. The city manager, city attorney, and I are available to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Cindy, for the report. The council has questions for Cindy? None? Okay. Anybody had any questions? Okay. Well, I'll open up a public comments. Anybody like to make a comments on this item can come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comments, bring it back for council for your question, Linda. Okay, comments, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Cindy, for that report. And just to share my comments briefly, that my position is that I would oppose Resolution 1, which is a notice call and procedures. I oppose Resolution 2, which is a candidate statement regulations. And I'll also be opposing the 3rd resolution on county services. I've shared my comments in the past. I believe in consolidating our elections in November of even years to encourage more voter turnout. And so that I'm consistent, I will oppose all 3 resolutions. That's just my position. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for this report. I'm glad to see the detail in this report that I commented on the lack of detail in the previous report at the last city council meeting. So I see that this report written by our city manager, from our acting city clerk, and from our city attorney, you worked together with the staff to put together a more detailed report that gave the information that I was looking for at the last meeting and the residents were looking for at the last meeting, because since the last meeting, I've heard from some residents, we got a very interesting, detailed public comment from a resident about this agenda item 9A. And if you can remind me, Acting City Clerk, did you already report on this written public comment we got about item 9A, or are we not at that point yet? Or did you comment on it? I can't remember what you did.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, Councilmember Yokoyama, thank you for your question. At the beginning of the meeting, we have been in the practice of summarizing the total number of public comments received, and we did receive one written public comment that was noted at that time.
Oh, so you brought that up during item number 6?
Just before item number 6 was opened.
So you mentioned before item number 6, right before item number 6, that we got a public comment, a written public comment submitted by one of our Cerritos residents regarding item number 9A.
Yes, thank you for your question, Councilmember Yokoyama. That has been our standard practice.
Okay, just thank you. I just wanted to clarify that a resident did take the time to submit a written comment about 9A, and I'll come back to this later, this written comment by the resident about item 9A. But thank you for bringing it up before item 6. So what I liked about this fiscal impact section is the residents want to know what things are going to cost them, what their taxpayer dollars are going to. So even though you bifurcated this report, you still show the fiscal impact, which actually relates to the entirety of the agenda report, including what we're going to get to next regarding ballot measures. But you brought up this fiscal impact during your presentation that you completed in the first part, so I want to address it. I just want to comment it now, that thank you for analyzing it, and because I didn't see this type of analysis when we talked about putting ballot measures on a previous municipal election regarding anti-nepotism and term limits. You really broke it down here. I'm glad you did it here. And what you're showing the residents of Cerritos, the taxpayers, that if we put 2 ballot measures on the March 2025 election, it's going to cost them an extra $20,000 of taxpayer dollars. So thank you for giving us the numbers. The residents like to know what we're spending what the city council is doing with their money. And I've mentioned that I'm against these ballot measures. And if these ballot measures get put on the March 25 election, it's going to cost the residents, the taxpayers, $20,000. If we don't put it on if we don't put these ballot measures on the March 25 election, then the residents don't have to pay these $20,000. So I'm looking forward to the rest of your presentation in this bifurcated agenda item. But I will comment that I like my colleague, Councilmember Johnson, don't like the wasteful spending that comes with the standalone elections. And that's why I, as a matter of principle, as a steward of our residents' taxpayer dollars, I cannot support standalone elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if no one has any comments, questions, do we have a motion to approve the first part of this item 9A?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, we have motion and second.
A motion was made by Councilmember Barrows and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Vo to adopt the three resolutions on the screen to notice and call the election. And I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 3-2.
Okay.
And before we move on, Mayor, Cindy, do you recall when Vita did share that the standalone election was less expensive than if we went with the county?
Thank you for...
I believe that was a comment when she was sitting right there in the chair that you're in.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, Councilmember Barrows, thank you for your question. I do recall different notes of that sort, and it is very difficult to compare the cost of one election to another. It is not necessarily always an apples to apples comparison. What I can note is that conducting a consolidated special election with the county, as we would be required to do for the March election, would more than likely be more costly than the figures that you were just shown.
Thank you. I think she's also stating if the election was held at the same time as other elections at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out that, the comment by my colleague that it's wasteful spending, we're saving money. Thank you.
Okay.
And I
let's go
disagree
to
with
next. Okay, it's over. Let's go to second items on the 9A.
Thank you, Mayor. I will now provide a brief report on the first potential charter amendment measure as directed by majority City Council action at the September 26 meeting. This measure relates to the requirement of voter approval to change the election date, which is currently set by ordinance as the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March of each odd-numbered year. Additional conforming amendments are included in this proposed amendment. If the council places this measure on the ballot and subsequently Cerritos voters approve this charter amendment, the date of the general municipal election would be fixed in the charter as currently set, and voter approval would be required for any future date change, whether placed on the ballot by voter initiative or city council resolution. The agenda report references in several places the effective date of this amendment as 2026 or commencing with the 2027 election. To clarify, any references to a 2026 or to the 2027 election effective date are meant to indicate that, if approved by the voters, the 2027 election will be the first general municipal election that falls under this potential charter provision. The ballot question, as shown on the screen, also clarifies this. This clarification of the intent of this measure will be noted in the official archived meeting records. As stated, if ratified by the voters in March 2025, the Cerritos general municipal election date will be specified in the charter and require voter approval for any future amendment. Additional conforming amendments were incorporated into this proposed charter amendment. These amendments would, beginning in 2026, set the date of the council's selection of the mayor as the second Wednesday of April. City council member terms, beginning with the 2027 election, would also be set to commence on the second Wednesday of April. As stated in the agenda report, charter amendments go into effect when ratified by the voters after certification of the election results and after the completion of filing with the Secretary of State. Charter amendments may specify a commencement date as the proposed amendment to Section 404A of the Charter does. This concludes my report on the first of two potential charter amendment ballot measures. It is recommended the City Council review and consider the information provided, receive public comment on the placement of this measure on the ballot only, and if desired by the City Council, adopt the resolution required to do so. The City Manager, City Attorney, and I are available to answer any questions the Council may have.
Thank you, Cindy. Council has a question for the second resolution.
I have a quick question. Can you go back one slide, please? Just real quick, maybe I misheard you. You said the mayor transition would be the second Wednesday in April, but on here it says the second Tuesday in April. Which one is the actual day?
I apologize. The term commencement date and the mayoral transition date would be the second Wednesday in April. I do apologize for the typo.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to just clarify that for
Thank
the
you.
residents.
Thank you. Anyone else? In none, I'll open up for public comments. Anyone like to speak on this item, resolution 2? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments, bring it back for council for action.
Just a quick comment.
Move
Mr.
approval.
Can I please comment?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, we've addressed these issues here in the Cerritos City Council a number of times. These issues have come up, and I'm repeating what I've said at the earlier meetings, and my council colleagues are disagreeing with what I'm saying today, just like they disagreed with what I said before. I'm just basing things on the agenda reports provided to me by our hardworking staff and by our charter employees. But before I get into that, I do want to get into what's going on here. Okay, the hypocrisy that's going on here is our city council elections were consolidated with the county. We had a 2020 consolidated election. We had a 2020 consolidated election. And that election saved us money on the consolidation, and it resulted in the highest voter turnout percentages in our city of Cerritos. And that's what democracy is about in America. That's what about elections are, okay? You know, people, American citizens talk about how they want their votes to be counted. And when we have a consolidated election in an even-numbered year, in 2020, we had the highest historical percentage in terms of voter turnout in our city of Cerritos. And our residents who are paying attention and speak about it and come to the city council meetings like they did in 2021, they talk about how they want to try to aspire to this American idea of voter participation, citizen participation in our democracy by being able to vote. And that's why a resident who's paying attention submitted a public comment. Unfortunately, our practice here with this city council is giving a general summary. But if this resident's words could have been read out loud by her, what she wrote and submitted to these council members, the 5 of us, for us to read, is that she wrote that many of us, this Cerritos resident wrote, many of us want the city election to be held in November of even years. Voter turnout has been shown to be greater for the general election than a standalone election in March. I'm very concerned that it appears voter turnout is not a priority for this council. Turnout should be the #1 priority when scheduling elections. Your favoritism for March suggests voter suppression right here in Cerritos. Say it isn't so by scheduling our elections in November in even years. The voting date must be what is best for the citizens, not what is best for the council members. Data shows voter turnout is greater in November of even years than in March, thus meeting the needs of the citizens by holding the election in November of even years. So thank you to that resident who submitted this written comment to the city council, because she reminded me that what I should have been prioritizing at the last meeting, which I didn't do, what I should have been prioritizing, it's about aspiring for the highest voter turnout in our city. And that's why I'm against standalone elections. And that's why I want our elections to be consolidated in even years. And that's why I want my elections to be consolidated in November of even years. Because I want every possible resident of Cerritos who has the American constitutional right to vote, I want them to vote. I want to have that highest voter turnout, and that happens in consolidated elections in even years. And the highest historical numbers show it happens in November of even years. So thank you to the resident for reminding me and this council and all of you and the public that we should be aspiring for the highest voter turnout, which happens in November of even years. Now, another thing that some residents care about is the money. And in 2021, we were talking about having a standalone election in 2022. So our hardworking city manager, Art Gallucci, our hardworking city clerk, Vita Barone, and our hardworking city attorney, Bill Erkey, put together an agenda report in October 14 of 2021 because they had to present an agenda report on October 14, 2021, just like our acting city clerk is presenting one today about the 2025 election. Art and Bill and Vita had to present an agenda report on October 14, 2021 about our standalone election that was going to be in April of 2022. So Art and Bill and Vita put together this agenda report to let the city council know in this agenda report what it was going to cost our city of Cerritos, what it was going to cost our Cerritos taxpayers to have a standalone election in 2022. So Art and Vita and Bill put in the financial implications section of this October 14, 2021 agenda report, which is on the city website, available to the public, available to the council, available to all of you. And I brought this up at the last meeting, and I couldn't get anybody to say that they remembered reading this like I read it back for this meeting. And what City Manager Art Gallucci and City Attorney Bill Erkey and City Clerk Vita Barone wrote to inform this city council about a standalone election. They wrote that the adopted City of Cerritos fiscal year 2021-2022 city budget includes an appropriation of $250,000 for election-related expenses. As the conduct of a standalone election requires the city to directly administer all aspects of the proceeding, an additional allocation will be required in the current city budget to supplement the current appropriation for election-related expenses. The supplemental expense is currently estimated at $100,000, period. This is the October 14, 2021 agenda report that was before this city council because we had to consider and approve our standalone 2022 election. So, Art, Bill, and Vita analyzed this, and they said a standalone election costs our city of Cerritos taxpayers an additional $100,000. Every time we have a standalone election, it's going to cost our residents, our taxpayers, $100,000. And guess what? This matches up with our budget. This matches up with our budget. Because when we were approving our budget back earlier this year, the city clerk's office, under the leadership of City Clerk Vita Barone, and working together with our hardworking budget team, They proposed for the 2024-2025 city budget an election expense of $350,000. And that $350,000 budget for our 2024-25 budget for election expense, line item 61160, under the department, under the activity of the city clerk, that is exactly what matches up with the cost of a standalone election that Art, Bill, and Vita said in this October 14, 2021 agenda report. That's exactly what they said a standalone election is going to cost our taxpayers, our Cerritos taxpayers, $350,000. So the numbers are the same. From this agenda report for the 2022 standalone election with what Vita and the city clerk's department and our budget team and our city manager put together for our 2024-25 city budget for our 2025 standalone election, it's going to cost us $350,000, which is the $250,000 plus the $100,000 supplemental expense for a standalone election. So I'm against this hypocrisy of now, all of a sudden, the council wants to only move elections upon a voter approval, upon a vote of the residents, when the same council members on a vote of their vote, on a 3-2 vote with Linda and I voting no, they gladly moved the election to a standalone election in 2025 that's going to cost you taxpayers $100,000 extra. And then every time we have a standalone election, it's going to cost you taxpayers $100,000. And then by putting these ballot measures on the March 2025 election, it's going to cost us an extra $20,000. So this March election is going to cost us an extra $120,000 of taxpayer dollars because it's a standalone election with 2 ballot measures on it. Wasteful, hypocritical, selfish. I can't stand it. I'm against it. And I hope all you residents are paying attention, like this resident who submitted this public comment that said Cerritos should aspire to have the highest voter turnout. And that will be accomplished in November even year elections. That's why when my colleagues pass these ballot measures by a majority vote, these ballot measures to have charter amendments by a majority vote, because I'm going to vote no. I'm going to encourage residents like this, and the other residents have reached out to me, that they're going to have to understand what the the citizen process, the Cerritos resident process is to engage in democracy and to bring change in city government. And they're going to have to work together, and I gladly will help them do what they need to do so that the residents or the citizens can do the work they need to do to move our current March odd year election to November even year election. And I will support them and I will help them. One more thing, if we're talking about ballots, we're talking about our elections. Another thing that I'm hearing from residents, and I gladly will talk to them, and I gladly will help them get the information from the city clerk's office, because we're talking about it. So if my council colleagues want to talk about it, I'll talk about it, and I'll talk about it with you residents. Is those residents who keep bringing up they want to have district elections? I guess now's the time, because if those residents who want to move the election for you residents who want to move our elections to November even year elections, why don't we just do it all together and also move to district elections so we can have better diversity on the city council, and we have a city council that that represents you, the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this resolution, again, I've shared my comments in the past. I realize this is an opportunity for voters to approve future election changes. However, I think we just need to take a step back and ask the voters first when they want their elections to be held. That's my position on this resolution, which I will be opposing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Barrow had the motion.
Before the motion, can we go back to public comment again?
No, public comment is closed.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment in response. When I hear the illogical thing that there's voter suppression, there's nothing further from the truth. Every single voter does get a absentee ballot and they can vote. The one thing that I've heard over and over again from residents is that there are people that will not vote for city issues. They're only interested in the federal or statewide, issues. From that, when we had C.U. Spitzer, one of our other elected officials from the past, the school board, come here when we had two council members say that we had no residents say they supported having the election, the uneven years. She did. The comments I've heard over and over again is that people are overwhelmed with information all at the last minute concerning especially the November elections. So trying to find out and understand local issues is very difficult. And the comments I heard is that they will leave it to those, because they don't want to vote, they'll leave it to those that do the study, they trust them. To me, the voter turnout, a higher number in November is a number that doesn't reflect those that, aren't interested in local elections. And those that do vote, and Frank, as you stated, we had something in place since 1994. It wasn't broke, not until the state said we had to change it. Our city council also violated the law. If you go back and look at those same numbers, starting with somewhere around 2017, whatever it was, you cannot extend the terms more than 12 months between two election dates. And we did that, with two actions by council. And from my perspective, it's important for all the residents to be able to focus on the issues that we have faced in our city and the closest to how they live. So for me, the election, having it be focused on local issues, one that we can have thoroughly discussed, is very important. You're free to go ahead and try and have an initiative to go ahead and move it to November, as well as any other reason that you may have. But in terms of voter suppression, there's nothing further from from that position. Our state has mandated, and we have endorsed and encouraged it, to have every voter have an opportunity to vote and make it as simple as possible. No one is trying to suppress a single vote. We want to have educated voters that know exactly what's going on. And there's a convenient overlooking of the fact that Vita did say that, in the last couple of years, costs by the county have skyrocketed. The number to run an election is higher than the cost to ourselves. And with that,
we have a motion and a second.
I'll be voting to support it.
Okay.
A motion has been made by Councilmember Barrows and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Vo to adopt a resolution to add the proposed charter amendment ballot measure number 1 to the March 2025 election ballot. And I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 3-2.
Thank you.
I will now briefly summarize information on the second potential charter amendment measure, which relates to a comprehensive cleanup and modernization of the city charter document. On September 26th, the City Council unanimously directed staff to return with a report presenting the required resolution for adoption to place this measure on the ballot. As previously reported, this measure, if included on the March ballot by council majority approval and approved by the voters, would bring the charter into compliance with any superseding laws and regulations. It would also improve operational efficiency by referencing modern and actual business practices, eliminate outdated references, clarify and correct grammatical, punctuation, and spelling errors. This includes the clarification of the city treasurer role and the separation of the role from that of the city clerk. This concludes my report on the overall cleanup and modernization charter amendment ballot measure. It is recommended the City Council review and consider the information provided, receive public comment on the placement of this measure on the ballot only, and if desired by the council, adopt the resolution required to do so. The city manager, city attorney, and I are available to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Cindy. Council has questions? So none, will ask for anyone like to speak from the public on this item. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comments.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
A motion was made by Councilmember Barrows and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Vo to adopt the resolution to add proposed charter amendment ballot measure number 2 to the March election ballot. I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 4-1.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, for the report. Item, do we have to take any? Okay.
Sorry, we have a couple more. These ones will be a little bit quicker than the first part of the report. Thank you. At this time, since the council has placed both measures on the ballot, the council may also determine or authorize staff to determine the measure letters to be assigned. It is completely at your discretion as to which letters to assign. The value in selecting a measure letter early is an identification for official notices and voter outreach purposes. You may choose any letter of the alphabet. The letters do not have to be sequential. I will note in 2020, the city did have Measure C, and in 2022, we had 6 ballot measures labeled Measures D, E, F, G, H, and I. For future research purposes primarily, I would recommend choosing letters other than these. Again, the council may delegate this responsibility to staff if you so choose. At this time, the City Council should receive public comment and deliberate on the measure letters to assign to each ballot measure or assign this responsibility to staff. This is completely at your discretion. The City Manager, City Attorney, and I are available to answer any questions the council may have. And after this item, there are 2 more smaller items.
Okay. Council has any questions on this?
I would move to allow staff to assign the letters.
Okay. All right. I'll open for public comments. Anybody like to make comments on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments, bring it back from the council action.
I make the same motion.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to give it to the staff.
And I believe the electronic voting has been activated.
Fall asleep.
The motion passes on a vote of 4-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay, what is next, Cindy?
Thank you, Mayor. The next action the City Council will take tonight is for each measure added to the ballot to adopt the resolution which sets the terms and deadlines for the writing and submission of primary written arguments for and against each measure and directs the city attorney to prepare the impartial analyses. In order to preserve the council's right as the legislative body to first priority in submitting primary written arguments for or against each measure, the City Council should also take formal action to designate one or no more than 2 council members to write and submit the primary argument for or against each measure, and include that designation in each subject resolution. Monday, October 21st, 2024 at 5 p.m. is the final deadline for the submission of primary arguments of no more than 300 words for or against each measure. The deadline for the city attorney to submit an impartial analysis of each measure of no more than 500 words to the Office of the City Clerk Elections Official is Thursday, October 31st, 2024 at 5 p.m. If authorized by City Council resolution tonight, the deadline for the submittal of rebuttal arguments of no more than 250 words to the primary arguments for or against each measure is also Thursday, October 31st, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the Office of the City Clerk Elections Official. This concludes my report on the adoption of resolutions authorizing primary arguments, directing the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis, and the potential to authorize rebuttals for each ballot measure. It is recommended the City Council review and consider the information provided, receive public comment on these items only, and if preserving the City Council's right to priority in submitting written arguments, the City Council should determine by majority vote up to 2 council members who will write the primary argument either for or against each measure on behalf of the City Council, so that determination can be incorporated into the resolution, and whether to adopt a resolution authorizing rebuttal arguments to the primary arguments for or against each measure. As mentioned previously in this report, authorizing rebuttal arguments to primary arguments is not a requirement. The city manager, city attorney, and I are available to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you for the report. Question for Cindy.
I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm aware that the city attorney is responsible for writing the impartial analysis. But however, if a council member were to author an argument in favor or against, then what is the scope of the city attorney's duties as far as drafting arguments on behalf of council if they were to author an argument in favor or against?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Johnson and Mayor, members of the council. My role in this process is to prepare the impartial analysis, and because of that, I focus just on that to make sure that the summary is impartial, as the election code and the name requires. What I do not get involved with advising or writing or reviewing arguments for or against, because I do want to maintain that impartiality just by focusing on the impartial analysis. So to answer your question,
Thank you, Bill. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll open up public comments and we'd like to speak on this item. Seeing none, we'll close the public comments, bring it back for the council for action again.
Is this the time then when the council decides who will author arguments then?
Can I ask a question that might make that easier? The last time we only had one argument for and one argument against it, and we had a couple of residents that spoke and said they would have preferred to have a chance to rebut, which means there's 2 more comments and at least 2 more pages, for that. So would it be appropriate for us to resolve that part first and then get down to Linda, your question on it?
All right. So then if I hear you right, then Bruce, just arguments for and against with no rebuttal comments. Is that correct?
That's the way I understand it, because if I add that one more rebuttal to each one of those, I think addresses the comments that we heard from a couple residents, a couple of years ago. It wasn't quite, maybe after the election, they felt it would have been better. And I know from listening to a couple of residents, they were unclear on the 4 choices that they were all talking about. It would have made it, simpler. So, I'm more in favor cost-wise of keeping it down just to this very simple argument for and against. But there is, I think, a valid question to talk about the rebuttal to each one of those.
Is there an added cost for the additional pages for the rebuttals?
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, Councilmember Johnson, thank you for your question. Yes, there would be an additional cost as related to the translation and potential extra pages to the ballot books or the
And I
voter
ha-
information guide.
And I do have one more question. So if a council member were to author an argument in favor or oppose, could they still be the same author on the rebuttals?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Johnson and Mayor, members of the council. That is actually, there are a couple logistics to keep in mind with the official position taken by the city. And then what we always recommend is to have no more than 2 members of the council author the argument either for or against on behalf of the city. That is only done by a majority vote action by the council. If there is but if, for instance, any member of a council is not in favor of a ballot initiative, they too could submit as an individual voter a argument either for or against as well, depending upon what the majority of council may have designated as being either in favor or against an initiative, and then identifying who the 2 or 1 or 2 people writing that argument on behalf of the city are. So, to get to your question, there is the ability for a whenever there is a argument in favor, there is also the ability for any voter, including a council member, to submit an argument in opposition. If there are rebuttals authorized, then what the city clerk's office will do is ensure that whoever the original writers who wrote the arguments in favor and against do get to respond specifically to the other party. So does that answer your question on how council members may be involved in providing either an argument for or against? The city as a council would only have one official position, but that does not preclude other council members from submitting either an opposition, or if rebuttals are authorized, then to allow them to also submit a rebuttal if they are the people who submit an argument for or against.
Thank you, Bill. Well said.
Can you explain if, let's assume Linda and I are both on opposite sides, based on the votes today. If there's a rebuttal to a rebuttal or whatever, if there's more than one submitted for either my position or Linda's position, who chooses when there's more than one?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Barrows and Mayor, members of the council. It was spelled out and it's set forth in statute. It actually falls to the city clerk, and there is an order that is to be followed when there is more than one argument for or against. As was pointed out in the agenda report, and the reason for asking if the council does want to designate who may be writing on behalf of whatever the council's position is for either measure is that the priority in the elections code first grants priority to the city or those council members authorized by the city to submit an argument. After that, they would come down to organizations and then to individual voters. But again, the city clerk is the one responsible for making sure that that priority is followed and that the arguments would then be put in the back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we need to come up with a dedicated person to write against and for.
I think we're back to Bruce's recommendation that we limit arguments for just support or against with no rebuttals, correct?
It's either one or the other. I wasn't recommending either one. I just wanted to have us consider it, because that, I think, will kind of set up, your first question.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I support that.
Okay. So I think, Mayor, would you mind asking if we can just do a straw vote on having?
Yes,
the
who
arguments
would like
for
to
and
sign up?
against
Who
with
would like to sign up
rebuttals?
for? Who'd like to vote for?
Okay, well, this is with the rebuttal to the rebuttals, basically. The for and against and the rebuttals.
Oh, we are having rebuttals?
No, I'm asking, how about a straw vote?
A straw vote on for and against and rebuttals?
Yes.
I'm good with just for and against.
Okay.
For and against.
Because I'm kind of in the middle on it, but Chung? You're
For and
fine with
against,
that?
fine, yeah.
Frank? You have three that say they want to have just for and against, no rebuttals.
I don't have an opinion.
Okay. Well, I think the majority wins on it, so let's make that official with a.
For and against.
With your motion, would you like to make a motion then on that?
Please.
No, I asked if you would like to make the motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion then. I couldn't hear it, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So, Mayor,
Bruce has to make the motion.
Yeah, the motion is to have limited to for and against.
Second.
Okay, let's vote on that then.
A motion was made by Councilmember Barrow, seconded by Councilmember Johnson to authorize only primary arguments for and against.
A quick question. Are we just voting on this for that, or also designating who's for and against the city council? Because that's part of the agenda. Are we bifurcating?
What we just did is bifurcated the two.
I just want to make sure that's what we're doing, and
Yes.
then we're not just voting now and we're done.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is just for the charter amendments, the two charter, okay.
I believe the electronic voting has been activated and the motion passes on a vote of 4-0 with 1 abstention. And now it would be the appropriate time for the council to determine the authors, if desired.
Can we also just separate out the, just talk about the one resolution about the charter amendment specifying the election date and other related, on the election date, just that one charter amendment. Is that okay? That was where you guys voted yes, I voted no. So obviously we would have a for and against argument on that.
Well, the council can, however you'd like to address it, that's fine.
Yeah, so we're not asking for an author for both. We just want an author for one. Right now is what you're asking for. Right.
And it would be the author on this particular one, on the amendment.
I'm
on
good.
the
I'm good. I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, which one? Which one?
So we're choosing an author then for the four.
Well, instead of choosing, does someone want to just go ahead and volunteer so we can move forward? Well, if there's no volunteer, then I guess we'll leave it up. We just won't have an argument from city council.
Okay, do we have for against? We don't have anything for for.
I would like to be the author on against.
Since I was the part of the charter committee, I'll go ahead and
Be the
Do it for four?
For those.
Yeah, the
For
You're for four, okay. Mayor
That's what the majority
Councilman
votes
Barrows
were.
is for four and Linda Johnson is for against.
if this council would.
I'll make a
entertain
motion
that.
to approve that.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, if we could clarify on this, the official position of the city is for, because we're putting it on the ballot, so I think that the correct way of addressing it is that, I believe it was Councilmember Barrows would be the city's designee for the official city position in support. And Councilmember Johnson can submit an opposition. It's not necessary for the council to vote on that, but she is entitled to do so.
I see.
And if I understand it correctly, the way it was explained, that if Linda was the only council member to write the opposition, that would take precedence over any other group or individual.
It would likely take precedent, yes.
Likely.
You-
I think
it will-
it's a big door that's open.
Well, again, we have to make sure that the clerk goes by what the elections code says. But yes, it would be, because she is a council member, it would be presumed that she would have priority.
And to be clear, Bill, if I were to write the opposition, author the opposition, I would not be able to use my title as a city council member, correct?
You could, but you would need to make it clear that it was not the official position of the city.
I see. Thank you.
So just to clarify, we're voting on one person to either be for or against, and that would be the official person for or against, and then anybody else after that can write a rebuttal to that.
Well, correct, except it's not technically a rebuttal, it would just be an opposition, the primary
So
opposition.
we're only voting for one person, not two.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, that's one. Okay, thank you.
You may vote, you may select two authors of the position for in the primary argument, but yes.
So you're just saying that the council can't vote to have Councilmember Johnson represent the city against if we've already voted for Councilmember Barrows to speak for the city for.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So we need to vote on that now.
So then the question is there anybody who wants to co-author with Councilmember Barrows?
I'll do it. Sure.
There you go. The mayor and Bruce Barrows. Does that require a formal motion
Yes. So Bruce, you want to amend your motion?
to include Naresh?
Sure.
So your motion will be, you want to be the designated representative with the mayor, Solanke, to represent the city in favor of this one measure.
Is there anyone else that wants to?
I'll second that if that's the motion.
All right.
That resolved that very quickly.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Barrows and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Vo to authorize Councilmember Barrows and Mayor Solanke to write and file primary arguments for the measure related to the setting of the election date and conforming amendments to.
No, just that one issue.
Yes. And to direct the city attorney to write the impartial analysis. And I believe the electronic voting was activated and the motion passes on a vote of 4-0 with one abstention. And now the council may select one or two council members to author the primary arguments for the second ballot measure.
Okay.
Do you have any volunteers?
I'd like to make a motion that we not have a argument for or against to save money.
I'll second that. For that.
That was for the charter cleanup.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay.
And
My motion
cleanup.
was to not have
No,
any
nobody.
argument for or against to save money. And this is referring to the charter cleanup.
The city manager was reminding me one thing, just so the council is clear, that's fine. It's within the council's prerogative not to submit an argument, but there is the ability for others to submit an argument.
Yes.
And again,
That's
so
fine.
just so everybody understands that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And a motion was made by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem
Okay,
Bo.
before we vote, can I ask a question? If it's simple cleanup that we have to do, since the council majority voted for it, could we just say the council voted for it? Can we have a vote to do that? Simple statement that it's just cleanup. We have, just say refer to the language by our attorney. Just in case somebody has some heartburn, decides to write, something.
Okay. I mean,
I
if you
mean,
want to add
and
that.
I just make it very simple, just a
I
one line.
understand where you're coming from. Yeah, you just want to make you just want to have a statement from the council that we are in support of it.
Just
Yes.
clean up.
Yes.
That's all we're talking
Yes.
about.
Yes, we can do that. Would you like to be the author?
No, your motion, so you amended your motion. And Chung seconded. Let's go. Let's vote. Let's go.
Okay.
That was a
but-
different motion.
No, we need to have it amended.
I'll amend the motion then.
She's amending the
I
I'll
motion.
agree to it.
Okay.
Be the author.
Yeah, and can we designate one or two? Because this will technically be an argument in favor.
What would that defeat the purpose of the cost savings?
No, not because
It's-
it's on
it-
one page.
Yeah,
Bruce, would you like to be the co-author?
Yes. Yes, I would. I mean, it's going to be real hard to write one sentence.
All right, so that was another
That's-
amendment.
That,
And
maybe I should just repeat the motion then, that Councilmember Barrows and I will be the co-authors on the argument for the charter, to support the charter cleanup.
For the cleanup.
For the cleanup.
Yep.
Thank you. And
I'll agree to that amendment.
I do believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 4-0 with one abstention. And I have one more final piece, if you'll please bear with me.
Oh my God.
I apologize.
And actually, just to clarify, I can't remember if you restated that, the impartial analysis will also be done for the cleanup item as well.
Thank you.
Can we go ahead and get that on a motion? Can we go ahead and just make sure?
No, I think it applies to all of them, for the impartial.
It does. It's legally required.
I'll move
but I
for
know
that.
for the first one, we had it specified.
I'll move for that.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What was the motion?
To authorize the impartial analysis for the cleanup proposed cleanup charter
Okay.
amendment.
No, for all of them.
No,
No, we're just dealing with
just,
that one issue.
just
No,
on the
the-
charter cleanup.
Well, the first one it was already
Yes.
approved. So it's just now, just want to make sure for the record that we have it for the cleanup amendment as well.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. And the motion passes on a vote of 4-0 with one abstention. And we will now move to the final piece of this report. At this time, it is recommended the City Council authorize the city manager or designee to enter into agreements with state certified vendors and authorize the city clerk elections official to oversee and conduct the March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election pursuant to Elections Code 13001. It is also recommended at this time, the City Council authorize the city clerk elections official and authorize designees to oversee the conduct of the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election in accordance with the city charter and applicable laws and regulations. As further detail related to this section was discussed earlier this evening, this concludes my report. It is recommended the City Council review and consider the information provided, receive public comment on this item only, and approve staff's recommendations. The City Manager, City Attorney, and I are available to answer any questions the Council may have.
Okay, council, any questions? Seeing none, do we need a open public comments on this? Anybody like to speak on this item again? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments, bring it back for council action.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay.
A motion was made by Councilmember Barrow, seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve staff's recommendation. And I believe the electronic voting has been activated. And the motion passes on a vote of 4-1. And this concludes this item.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
I just want to say, Cindy, you did a fabulous job. This was such a difficult item to get through with so many sub-items. And I also want to thank my council colleagues. We may not agree, but we certainly did agree on a lot of things here. I think that was progress. I think we deserve a clap. But I really
How about a
enjoyed
dinner?
that. Thank you.
All right. I was asking for dinner anyway. Item, Robert, Mr. Lopez, 9B, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Item 9B follows up on direction given at the last City Council meeting related to taking an official position in support of Prop 36. The presentation this evening will be given by Mr. Carey, and following that, he and Mr. Erkey and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Robert. Mayor, members of the City Council, the item before you is the review of a resolution of support for Proposition 36, also known as the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. As you recall, this item was initially presented as an informational report at the September 26th council meeting, in which background on the proposition was provided and direction was sought as to whether the council wished to take a formal position on the matter, which will be on the ballot here in California next month. Following review and discussion, the council did direct that a formal resolution of support be prepared for approval this evening. Just to provide some very brief background, Proposition 36, again, is a citizen-initiated ballot measure that's been brought forward to address and close some of the loopholes that were created with the passage of Proposition 47 in 2014. That measure was passed with the intent to reduce the strain on our state's prison system and sought to achieve that objective by reclassifying certain nonviolent offenses, including simple drug possession and property crimes, from felonies to misdemeanors. Since its implementation, Prop 47 has had some unintended consequences. Notable increase in theft in California, particularly smash and grab and organized retail theft, and the states continue to struggle to control a significant surge in drug-related overdose deaths, particularly from the use of fentanyl. Proposition 36 is seeking to address these issues by enhancing penalties for certain drug and theft-related offenses, and by providing law enforcement and prosecution with tools that are intended to be significant deterrents to criminals engaged in these activities. The proposition has received widespread support from law enforcement agencies throughout the state. It's also supported by the League of California Cities, California Contract Cities, and the Independent Cities Association, as well as a number of local cities, including the city of Lakewood. And so with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, for the report. Council has questions? So none? Okay. We'll open up public comments. Anybody like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the item 9B, bring it back for a council action.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have motion and second.
A motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Vo and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve staff's recommendation. And I believe the electronic voting has been activated. The motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is legislative item 10A, reports.
Thank you, Mayor. We don't have any items to present under either 10A or 10B this evening.
Thank you. Reports again, 11A from City Manager.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to note a recent promotion among our management staff. We have with us here Chris LaRocco, representing the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts. Chris is here in the stead of Jeff Tilkey, who is attending to other business matters for the theater. I'm happy to report that Chris LaRocco was recently promoted to the position of Deputy Director of the theater. Chris started with the city in 2001 as a part-time box office teller and has worked his way up within the theater organization over the years. He eventually served as ticket office coordinator, later senior ticket office coordinator, and eventually became the theater's management analyst in 2017. He's been heavily involved in several aspects of the theater's management and operation. And with his current promotion to the position of deputy director, he is overseeing several areas of the operation, including managing artist contracts, rentals and special events, and marketing activities. So with that, I'd like to welcome Chris into his new role and defer the floor to him to make any comments.
Thank you, Robert. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. If you were to have asked me back in 2001 when I first started with the city, could I picture myself being with the Cerritos Center in 20 years? The answer would probably have been absolutely not. At the time, for me, it was about selling tickets while I went to school, and that was about it. But something happened along the way. I found my passion, and I realized what the theater was truly about. And it wasn't just selling tickets. It's about creating those moments for the individuals, the families, and the friends that walk through our doors. It's about exposing our children, our youth, to the magic that is live arts. And it's about giving that one person who might be struggling with some personal conflict the ability to escape their reality and just have fun for a couple of hours. And I realized that's what motivates me to continue to make the Cerritos Center bigger and better. I think with that said, the last thing I want to add is that I sincerely and I truly appreciate being given the opportunity to continue to serve the city of Cerritos, its residents, and the patrons of the Cerritos Center. Thank you.
Welcome, Chris. It's like just today we welcome 1,500 students this morning and a teacher. Amazing place, though. Thank you. Welcome. All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yes. Next item is from the council communication. I'll start with Frank.
Thanks. On Saturday, September 28, I was happy to attend the ABC Community Expo at Artesia High School. It was very informational to see all of our ABC schools set up their tables with showcasing their schools, as well as the middle schools and the high schools. So I was happy to attend again, like I did last year, the ABC Community Expo at Artesia High School. On Sunday, September 29, the diversity of our city was in effect. In Cerritos, we had the 3rd year anniversary of Ube Fest here in Cerritos. It was well attended. It was the parking lot was full over at the shopping center on Artesia and Carmenita. And the organizers told me when I got there in the afternoon, they told me it was even busier. It was even busier earlier in the day. And this was the 3rd year anniversary of Ube Fest here in Cerritos. But it was actually, this was the first time it was in Cerritos. The first 2 years, I think, were in Long Beach. So they moved it to Cerritos because the organizers realize that there's a lot of fans of Ube in Cerritos, starting with our robust Filipino community here in Cerritos. Then, also on September 29, I then attended Saffron Spot Presents LA India Fashion Week and Fashion Show at the Sheraton Cerritos. Congratulations to organizer Smita Vasant. I want to thank her for for the last couple years, she's been having this annual event, LA India Fashion Week and Fashion Show, in our Cerritos Hotel, Sheraton Cerritos, bringing, showcasing India fashion here in our city, while bringing all the attendees to our city of Cerritos and to our Sheraton Cerritos. So thanks again to Smita Basant. On October 1, I attended an exciting volleyball game. It was Whitney High School varsity girls volleyball at Cerritos High School, girls volleyball. And I'll report that after an exciting five-set match, Whitney won 3-2. On October 2, I volunteered. On Wednesday, October 2, I volunteered at Artesia High School, where they had a bite of reality for their students. I joined in volunteering with many other ABC school leaders from the district office, and principals and assistant principals and leaders from the various other high schools, as well as city council members from other ABC cities, and school board members from the ABC school board. And we volunteered to teach, to role play with the Artesia High School students in a financial literacy role-playing program called A Bite of Reality. Yesterday, on Sunday, October 6, I was excited to attend the Volunteer Coaches Appreciation Picnic at Camp Liberty at Liberty Park. I was glad to see a lot of old friends and make new friends, as I was able to congratulate all the coaches that I saw there while we enjoyed hamburgers and grilled cheese sandwiches. What was really, I was really glad, again, like I said, to see old friends. Some of these coaches some of these coaches who give to our city, they've moved away from Cerritos as they got older, but they came back and drove a long distance to come to this Volunteer Coaches Appreciation Picnic. But it was great. It was very, I was very glad to see Steve Garul, longtime Cerritos employee, now retired. Steve Garul was there with his family. And I just wanted to thank Sherry Titus and the hardworking Recreation Services team for putting together this year's version of the Volunteer Coaches Appreciation Picnic over at Liberty Park. And lastly, I just want to thank the City Council and the City of Cerritos today that we recognized Filipino American History Month here in our City of Cerritos. Just like last year, once again this year, the White House has nationally recognized Filipino American History Month, recognizing that nationally the Filipino American community is a growing, robust community, just like here in our city of Cerritos. Just like our pastor told us, Pastor Juno Smalley said at the beginning of the meeting when he talked about Cerritos, our diversity is our strength. Cerritos is a very diverse city, and our city is over 60% Asian American Pacific Islander as part of the diversity of our city. And I'm thankful that again, our City Council and our City of Cerritos tonight, during the month of October, which is Filipino American History Month, we here officially recognized Filipino American History Month. So thank you.
Bruce?
Thank you. Nothing to report.
Okay. Linda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On September 29, I was also at Ube Fest and also attended the LA India Fashion Week at the Cerritos Sheraton. On October 3rd, I attended the grand opening of Arte Cafe in Bellflower at its new location. So if you remember, Arte Cafe was at the Cerritos Town Center for 30 years and until they closed. So congratulations to owner and chef Richard on reopening Arte Cafe. Although it's not in Cerritos, I'm just glad we once again will be able to dine at his restaurant. On October 4th, I attended the Senior Health Fair. It was very well attended, and thank you to Chelsea and her staff for putting on a successful event. Excuse me. Excuse me. And on October 5th, I attended the Leanne Rhymes Show at the CCPA, and as always, I see Chris over there. Last, I just want to do a shout out to staff at MIS. I struggle with technical devices, so thank you, Erin, and your staff, your amazing staff. They're always available to provide assistance to me, and most importantly, they're very patient with me, so thank you to MIS. That's it.
Mr. Wu?
Thank you, Mayor. On September 28th, I also had a couple events to attend to. One of it was the ABC Community Expo and another event at the Senior Center. However, that morning, I wanted to come by to the city yard because the Santa float was being refurbished and redone by volunteers from the Downey Rose Parade Association. And so they started at 6, so I decided to come by there around 7 or so and wanted to thank them for their service and realized there was only 3 of them, and that float was a big float, and they had taken everything apart and needed to rewrap the whole thing. So I decided to stay and assist them and help them, and then after a couple hours realized it's going to be a lot more work than what we anticipated. So I went home, recruited my boys and my wife, and brought them back to help wrap the center float, and over 10 hours later, we were finished. And with that, I had to miss the other 2 events that day, but I felt that was important for me to make sure those volunteers recognize that the city will step up and help them as well, and appreciate their donation and their service to our float. And in doing so, they never asked for anything from our city. They were very interesting, to say the least, group of individuals that provide the city of Downey. They build their floats every year for the Downey Rose Parade Association, and every year they have an entry. And this year they decided to help us with our Santa float. And every year they recruit and try and receive donations because it's privately funded. The city, I believe they just recently got the city to start supporting them just in the last year, a couple of years is what they told me. But overall, it costs a lot of money for them, and they're always looking for donations. And because, and again, they didn't ask for this, and because they volunteered to do it because that was their passion. And one person, he's the designer of their float every year. And with that experience alone, I mean, that's money right there that we were able to save from him, directing us to how to, staple things, what designs to put on. And so in doing so, I would like to ask a consensus from the council to direct the city manager within his authority and whatever he feels is appropriate to provide a small donation to the Downey Rose Parade Foundation to thank them for their service. Again, within his authority, nothing where we need to amend budgets for and so forth. But normally, the city manager provides donations to nonprofits, and I would just like to get consensus from the council to direct the city manager to look into that and what he feels comfortable to provide that donation to the Downey Rose Parade Association, just as a thank you. Again, they didn't ask for it. And actually, what one of them, I don't know if he was serious or joking, was asking if he can get the key to the city, but I think he was joking. But if we do have a small little pin with a key on it, I think it would be appropriate to send all 3 of them that as well. But if I can get consensus on that, or if we feel that's not appropriate, then I understand.
Yes.
I'd support that.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd also like to ask, in the past, when we had our own Rose floats, we had a lot of volunteers. And of course, the float of that size that won the awards that we won required a lot of help.
Yes.
Did they discuss that we need to do upgrades every year to our float? You know, the
Well,
Santa float.
You know, so just with this, the nature of that float being outdoors and running seven nights out, you know, during the Christmas time, being exposed to the elements, those materials won't last more than a couple of years out in exposed elements. So that's why we had to change it this time, because it started to fade, materials were falling apart. So but the city we've already approved in the budget an annual, I think it's 10,000 or 10 or 15,000 that goes towards the float every year to maintain and upkeep. And this year we saved a lot of money just because that we didn't have to pay someone to do that. I think that was part of the discussion where this year we were going to refurbish that float, because the those little, what do you call those things that wrap around the float? But you know, the decorations, they were in need of refurbishment.
Would you recommend that we ask for volunteers on a yearly basis to help maintain the float?
You know,
because we had a lot of volunteers before that they may want to participate.
I get approached all the time from community members and residents, and they would like to help on the float and then also ride the float. I know there'll be tons of volunteers, but I also know that there's certain things that we have to consider when we have volunteers come and help, especially on official business like that. So I'm good with it, but I would prefer to leave it up to the staff to decide if that's appropriate to have volunteers, because I know there's waivers that need to be signed, there's risk and liability and so forth, and you know, even the Rose Association individuals over there, they were asked to sign waivers as well to do just to cover us just in case. I'm good with it, but I think it'd be appropriate maybe just to leave it up to staff to decide who would be a good volunteers for because it also takes, like for me, I mean, I'm pretty handy. I brought all my tools, and you know, you got to make sure that you're safe when you're going up the ladder and so forth. I have my boys do that most of the time, you know, because they're younger. But you know, it's just one of those things where I can see maybe the city might incur a little bit of liability, but I'm good with it. I'll leave it up to staff, though. I prefer to leave it up to staff.
Should we just have consensus on that also?
Sure.
To have you look into it.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
For the volunteers, right?
For volunteers.
Yes. Yeah.
And then with that, I just saw Chris a couple days ago. Leanne Rhymes, great concert. Thank you for setting that up. We had a great time there. I had a couple of friends that didn't live in the area and convinced them to buy a couple of tickets for him and his wife. And they love it. And they say they're going to be regular customers of ours now just because they finally saw the inside of that theater. And so it's a nice service that you provide to the community. I almost want to say it's priceless. What you spoke about in regards to the experience of people when they attend, the message we send out there, and then also just, you know, art in general, I think is priceless. So thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I did attend the volunteers coach recognition yesterday, and I must have missed Frank because I did call him and Mr. Barrows. You guys both were supposed to get some kind of awards. There was coaches that had served volunteers 600 hours, 400 hours, and 300 hours. Larry McIntosh, I think, was the highest one, 600 hours, received the awards. Yeah, there was quite a bit of many coaches, and it was a great program. And thank you to Sherry, and Annie was there. Thank you, Annie. And today, this morning, Chris was there at the Performing Arts Center. Mr. Lopez were there. We had almost 1,500 students who came to theater at the Performing Arts Center, and they were so excited. I have never seen that much energy, and those kids were jumping on the stairs and going, and some of the students says, "Oh, I never been here. This is beautiful," you know. And they were all well dressed, and it was amazing. It was a great to see those kids. And thanks to Janice Hahn that she sponsors that program. And I know the inflation is went up, so we may have to reach out to her and ask for additional funding. Which and with that, I think we do have a closed session tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We have 3 closed session items tonight. Item 12A is public employee appointment pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957, Subdivision B. The title is the position of city clerk. And items 12B and 12C are conference with labor negotiators pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency negotiators, Robert Lopez, city manager, Drew Schneider, Director of Administrative Services, Amy Thomas, Enterprise Services Manager, and Joseph Larson of the City Attorney's Office. For 12B, the employee organization is AFSCME Local 619. And for 12C is unrepresented employees, full-time exempt. And with that, we can recess into closed session.
Okay, so this concludes the regular meeting, and meeting is now adjourned, and we'll come back from the closed session.